Hey guys, welcome to the AI team. This is the Sprint 5 review and this Sprint 6 planning. Let's jump right into it. So the Sprint goals were, the top priority was to make sure SSW Tiger is not as annoying for Michael Q, and that is done. And the other Sprint goal was to provide make sure alternative infrastructure for Sophie Claw is up and running. So sysadmins have expressed that OpenClaw was very risky and they didn't feel comfortable running it, and they wanted an alternative option. So we provided them with one, which was NanoClaw, which is a very minimalized version of OpenClaw. So they were happy with that, but we haven't made the change of deployment yet.
That's news to me. Should have we had a conversation about that one?
Yes, I asked the sysadmins, I asked Mehmet and Rob, do we need to get Adam to confirm? And they kind of said, oh, it should be fine. But yes, in hindsight, because I did send out an email.
This is on
update.
you then, Lewis.
Yeah, I did send out an email as well updating, but yes, I should have probably also called.
Was there any email that I could have potentially picked up on this change? Was there an email that said changing from OpenClaw to NanoClaw?
There was an email with that, yes.
And the subject is crystal clear?
The subject says, I can bring up the email. Oh, I think this might be better for afterwards, but since I'm on the way anyways, I'll open it up. Sent items. So there's this one, Sophie Claw changing providers.
I'm not sure I would have picked up that Sophie Claw itself is switching. I saw that subject. I didn't think anything to be alerted about.
Okay, all right. Well,
yeah, maybe if it had said Sophie Claw changing from OpenClaw to NanoClaw, I would have gone, what the hell is this? But yeah, did anyone have any questions about this?
By anyone, do you mean the sysadmins or?
No, I mean Callum or Michael.
I agree with the recommendation because OpenClaw is not that safe to use for connecting up to random stuff. So I thought it made sense to me.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
And Mike?
I was pretty much on the same page. When Lewis finished his research on it, I gave it a read over and agreed with the findings that NanoCore is probably the safer option to go with.
Okay. All right. Have we updated any rule on this?
No,
but from my end.
I'm not
sure.
sure.
We make sure that we do.
This, yes.
We should have a rule that, OpenClaw is when you're willing to take risks and put the benefits of what you researched on why you should go with NanoClaw and what you lose. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Right. So if there are no other questions, we can continue on. So timesheets, Michael, Willow, and myself were on it for most of the time, and Caleb, Callum, and Eddie were on it for a bit. On to some of the PBIs. So the first one to talk about is participant resolution for Tiger. Michael, do you want to dive into this one?
Yep. So if you scroll down a little bit, Lewis, to the issue, you will see that in this Yak Shave, the designers had a meeting where most of them were inside of the boardroom. So Tiger really struggled to figure out who each individual person was. So you can see that it's misspelled Michaela's name. It couldn't figure out Pravin's last name, and it's grabbed the wrong Alex. And that's because Tiger currently uses the transcript names to figure out who's who. So if you scroll down a bit more, Lewis, you will see there's the research that I did, and then you can see in this screenshot, it now can make an educated guess based on the invitees list, which it has access to now. So it'll hear the name Griffin, and even if it spells it wrong, it'll see the list and realize, oh, there's a Griffin, but this is how you actually spell his name. And this is where the actual image would come from. So that's how we've
Where's the list
resolved this
from?
issue. The list is from the invitees list in the meeting.
Got it. Okay. All right. Good.
Brilliant. Any other questions here? If not, we can move on.
Do you also give them the role, their position, or do you not include that?
No, just the names.
Okay. All right. So they have to. So Tiger still checks, guesses what role they are.
Correct.
Okay, that's nice.
Cool. The next one I want to point out is a Booking Pro. I guess it's a feature enhancement and also a bug fix. So previously,
Sorry, can I check? Have we finished talking about everything to do with Tiger now?
no, we can jump into a different one about Tiger.
It would make sense to stay on the
Yep.
one thing. Yeah.
Yep. Another one to do with Tiger is regarding the sprint goal. So manual processing. So Michael, do you want to talk about this one?
Yep. So if you scroll down a bit, Lewis, you will see this is the new card that is also being sent to users of Tiger. So originally, when your meeting title didn't match the keyword of including the word sprint review, it wouldn't send this message off. Instead, it'd just skip it silently. And obviously, we have a few meetings that don't include the word sprint review, whether that's because of the way it's set up or just because of Microsoft Teams acting up and saving it as meeting in general, if you will. So now we have this feature which gives you an option to process these cards anyway. So when a meeting is recorded and then it doesn't match the keyword, it will send you a card that says, hey, this meeting was skipped, it wasn't auto processed. And then the users have the option to click the process anyway button and kick off the Tiger workflow manually.
Any questions on that?
When somebody doesn't receive the email as they expect, what are the steps that they should do from that point?
So regarding the email, I saw your message. Currently, Tiger doesn't send emails out with dashboards, but I've yak-shaved a PBI and replied to your message in that chat. So if you give it a look and check out that PBI, if you're happy with it, I'm happy to implement that as a feature.
So maybe I misunderstood, but I think I was told that when a meeting comes to a close, Tiger kicks in and automatically does it and sends them an email with the link, everybody in the team.
It doesn't send an email. Instead, it sends a direct message on Microsoft Teams.
Oh, it sends a message on Teams. Oh,
Yes.
So you're going to add also send an email.
If that's what you'd like.
Well, yes, well, that's how it was originally described to me. I didn't hear about the Teams message, but yes, I think we should have both.
Sure.
But
I have a PBI and
I do think that the Teams message should say, you have, here's the link. For more details, see the email in your inbox. Because the email will have more stuff than the Teams message. Teams message will just be a ping.
What more stuff would be in the email apart from the link? Or would you actually have the dashboard in the email itself? Is that what you're saying?
I think you'd put a few key bits and pieces like an email normally has, like, a teaser. Your meeting was great. You got this. These people were talking, and for more details, see the report.
Right.
Just,
Right.
Yeah, just a tiny bit of info.
Okay. Yeah, I'll update the PBI on that to include that.
Cool. Any other questions?
No.
If not, then I'll move to the last one about Tiger, which is the spike to research on deploying weekly dashboards. I think this has been a feature that's been asked from different teams. I know Yakshaver has asked for weekly dashboards so we can compare. So Michael has done the research.
Is this about Tiger?
Yes, SSW.tiger.com. So currently we're deploying our dashboards onto Surge, and this was a spike to investigate how we would deploy it to SSW.tiger.com and then have a database to
Nice
kind of
URL.
keep, yes, a nice URL, but then also keep track of previous dashboards so that Tiger can actually, give you a view of how you've progressed across meetings, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, it's going to have an added benefit as well, in that if you follow this and you get the alert that, then you'll be informed. Let's just say a team that you didn't follow at all, such as you guys say don't follow Tina. When the Tina CMS team gets that report, oh, I could join the sprint review summary shortly, because that's why that would be coming.
Mhm.
Yeah, so this was just a spike to investigate how much work that would be, what costs it would entail. The costs are
Yes.
very negligible. So we're at 1 cent per month as the estimate.
Right.
Oh,
I
I think.
but if
I
you
think
think
Adam's signal's
that
cut off
Tiger
a bit.
might be, oh, you're not hearing. Okay.
Um, I think he's just entered a tunnel or something.
Yeah, I
So
think so. We can continue with this. We'll just continue. If there's any questions, we'll come back to it. So
yep.
nice. Um, next one. So that's all the Tiger issues. I'll jump back to the Booking Pro issue. So there was a conflict. Basically, when booking people from different offices, the account managers need to specify which office they're in, which is a little bit annoying for them. So this fixes that issue, and by default would take their time zone into account. So for example, so let's go down here. I booked in Willow, and it's automatically set her to the China standard time instead of me needing to say use China time when booking. And the last one is the other sprint goal, which was for us to look at Sophie Claw alternative providers. And Claude's done a bit of research, and there were a few options to choose from. So there was NanoClaw, Iron Claw, and Nemo Claw. But Iron Claw has a vendor lock-in, and Nemo Claw requires NVIDIA, which is not feasible for us. So NanoClaw is the best option. Oh, we'll come back at him. Shall we go back to the Tiger Spike?
Oh,
Never mind.
Maybe try calling him back in.
Yeah, I
See
tried
what
calling
happens.
him.
All right. Sorry, I'm
Welcome
back.
back. Yep.
Can I ask you a question that I'm not sure whether you answered? But I want you to imagine that lots and lots of open source projects that run meetings and are happy for the community to join. They might run something internal, and then they're ready to start the public sprint review, like Tina team does, or the Yakshaver team does. When they log on to that portal and they follow it, or they see one that's just been completed and Tiger has run it, they know they could join it there and then. So I tell you that so that you might be able to include the YouTube URL or the Teams link, or whether it's public or private or whatever.
okay.
Did you hear that?
Okay.
We heard up to include the Teams link or the YouTube URL, whether that's public or private. So if you said anything else afterwards.
No.
Oh,
I think that's a no. Okay. Any other no, I think any other questions?
No questions from me.
No questions? Yep.
All right.
I'll just continue. So I'll jump back to the Booking Pro issue. So before, what account managers had to do was they needed to specify the time zone for people. So let's say I want to book in Willow. I need to say I'm booking her for the using China Standard Time, so she gets 9 to 6 in her hours. But this fixes it. So it was a double fix because this also was more prevalent because of the changes we made to fix same day bookings getting cancelled. So this did a double fix, and now it displays the correct time for people. If I scroll down here, it's just an example. So of booking Willow in, I didn't mention her time zone, but it booked her into the correct time, 12 to 9 Sydney time, which is equivalent to 9 to 6 Chinese Standard Time. Any questions on that? If not, I'll move on to this one, Sophie called alternative providers. So this was another sprint goal. So this one was to research what alternatives would be good because the sysadmins didn't like OpenClaw as it was unsafe. So using Claude, it was able to come up with a summary. So the best option it found was NanoClaw. The next best option, same rating, was IronClaw. And the last one was NemoClaw by NVIDIA. The reason why we picked NanoClaw in the end was because IronClaw has a vendor lock-in of some AI cloud, and NemoClaw requires NVIDIA, which I'm not sure if it's feasible or not. So NanoClaw was the best option. There was also something by Cisco called DefenseClaw that works on top of OpenClaw, but that might also work for NanoClaw. We just need to do a bit of investigation, but that's just like a plugin on top. Callum also did suggest whether we could just use Claude code and just use the schedule and loop tasks. But there were a few things that made us want to use NanoClaw a bit more, such as like multi-user isolation, because you don't want two people to talk and be able to access each other's content. So that's all. And after talking to Mehmet, Kiki, and Rob, they were happy with that. And they also had a NUC that they're willing to let us use for NanoClaw if we wanted to use it in rather than host it on Azure.
Okay, good. Now, do you know what reasons I would have talked to you about why the advantages of OpenClaw?
Go for it.
No, I want to know. Do you know?
Oh, do I not know? That's why I say go for it. No,
So
I
if
don't.
you're seeking out the sysadmin's opinion
Yep.
and you're seeking out Callum's opinion, I think you could seek out my opinion if you're curious.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have almost no one on NanoClaw and a lot of eyes and a lot of people on OpenClaw, that's a consideration.
Yep. Okay.
It is. I mean, there's a lot of eyes on OpenClaw, and a lot of people have looked at it and said it's not secure. So,
Right.
but
Yeah,
yeah, it is true though. It's a much more popular package.
Yeah. I'm just more making the point that I want Lewis to be curious what different people think so he can balance everything up.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you've got NanoClaw and the other one that was reliant on NVIDIA, but the NVIDIA one has a lot of market share and NanoClaw has almost no one, that's going to matter.
Right.
Right.
I would say just from just looking at the stars on GitHub, they have roughly the same.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm glad you looked at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But obviously, compared to OpenClaw, it's less popular. But it's basically a minified version.
Right. Well, I've just been at Microsoft, and a lot of the regional directors have OpenClaw running on a machine at home. So yes, I'm sure you'll find anything that's popular, you'll have people that say there's potential problems. And I know anything like OpenClaw where it's non-deterministic and you're not sure what the hell it can do is going to be trouble. But you would also think if you get a user with very few permissions, it should be pretty good. Yeah, it's fairly locked down. Anyway, what's done is done.
All that's been done is a spike to investigate options, right? So it's not like we can't do OpenClaw.
Yep.
And by the way, I think we should probably do both. I mean, the whole point of doing this task is to figure out what our recommendation should be when clients come to us and ask for this sort of stuff set up. So we want to try out both, know what are the advantages, disadvantages, write a rule about it, etc.
Okay, good.
So what's the outcome? So we want 2 different ones?
Well, it sounds like we're doing 2 and you're doing the same thing on 2 until you're comfortable that NanoClaw does what we want it to do just as nicely as OpenClaw, and we have the benefits of something that is much more secure.
Okay, sounds good. Any questions on this before I move on? And any of the TBIs here? Okay, cool. So for R&D, Michael was using the new Claude auto mode. So before you had to use dangerously skip permissions, but he was trying out auto mode. And for me, I did research for OpenClaw alternatives using Claude Code. And yeah, that's all for the research. For AI tools, everything kind of stayed the same, except Michael is now using Yakshaver Desktop over the Yakshaver app, since there was a bug fix for I think the Mac version of Yakshaver Desktop. Are there any questions on this, or else I'll pass it on to Michael for the AI stats?
Sweet. Looking at the AI stats from Claude, it's basically summarized everything we discussed in terms of the sprint review. So it's mentioned that we've finally finished a AI receptionist getting that test passed. The participant resolution, duration display, and manual processing features on SSW Tiger. And then it also mentioned Crystal Ball being converted into a Claude skill, which I'm sure Lewis will demo to you later. He has actually made a done video, and I'm sure he will call you after this to figure out how you feel about it. But if we scroll down a little bit, Lewis, you can see that the co-pilot stats were pretty even. So it was myself, Lewis, and Callum, and we basically had an even share of speaking time where we went over a lot of things. I had a bit more because I was covering Willow's issues during our sprint review. And yeah, so if you scroll down a bit more, Lewis, you can see that it says what was the main
Why wasn't
issue?
Willow on that sprint review?
Because it was
she did
like
a lot of work.
It was like 7 a.m., 6 a.m. China time.
Couldn't you make it an hour later for her to join?
That would overlap with Yakshaver. That's the main thing.
Right. Okay. All right. Well,
Yeah.
I would try to find a time that works for her.
Yeah. Okay.
Or maybe Willow for that one morning you can get up earlier. Yeah. But you should be able to do something.
I'm sure we can figure something out. We can discuss it more after this. If we look at the Copilot stats for what was the main issue done, it's just said our sprint goal, which was manual processing for Tiger dashboards, which reduces the number of pings that the Tiger team will get from people asking for the Tiger stats if it misfires. Any questions on this AI stats section? If not, I can pass it over to Callum. Sweet. I'll pass it over to Callum with the sprint retro.
Thank you. So what went well? First thing, Michael obviously celebrated less pings for the Tiger stats. Lewis was happy that he got the sysadmin buy-in for a safe version of OpenClaw, though it's noted that Adam still wants to try OpenClaw regardless. And I noted something outside the sprint, but is related. Mehmet brought some hardware to the office that was capable of running Quen 3.5 locally and at a decent rate as well, which was very cool. And it costs about $4,000, and he was playing around with that the other day. And I think SSW should get one as well, so we can show it to clients as a potential local LLM that doesn't require any cloud. I'm sure lawyers and stuff would be very interested in that. What didn't go so well? I said that we're still not using AI for the sprint review retro planning. I'm now using it for at least one of my clients. I've shared the skill that I'm using with Lewis now, so I'm hopeful that next week we will be able to use that. And what needs to improve? Obviously, using that skill has already been noted. I also said that we should be making sure that every SSW product has a CLI, MCP, and/or skill for easy AI integration, and also that we should chase up Dan for the brainstorming idea that they did with the repo. Yes, Adam.
That last one with the API stuff was awesome. Is that an issue for each product on the backlog?
Do we create one issue for each product? I don't remember. Or was it just one for everything? But yes, it should be one issue for each product. So we'll double check that and we'll make sure it is. And that's it for the retro. Do you have anything to add, Adam?
No, all good.
Cool. Carry on.
Sorry, I was muted. So we jump into sprint 6 planning. So just a note, the meeting will be next Tuesday because next Monday is a public holiday for Sydney. So the sprint goal is that the next sprint email is created using a skill, and SSW Tiger dashboards are hosted on sswtiger.com. So we have a bunch of PBIs following, kind of prioritizing the Tiger stuff. So we have the custom domain here, as well as Willow is working on a Tina site for Tiger. So we're going to work together, kind of look at how we're going to host all of the dashboards. Is it going to be a markdown file? Is it going to be, like a static page? How we're going to do that? And this one's for the sprint goal. So I took the skill from Callum, and I'm going to see if there's any tweaks that need to be made in order to fit the rule, or if there's any branding changes, stuff like that. And that's about it. Anything on the list that do you have any questions about?
Right, all good.
All good. I'll hand it over to Michael for the AI stats.
Brilliant. The Claude stats picked up a lot of kind of questions that we had throughout. So a couple things about us speaking about the future of Tiger, which direction we should go in, the crystal ball skill that needs to get shown to you, as well as checking up Eddie's capacity for internal work, which I don't believe he has much this week. But the main thing is that we'll be primarily working on Tiger for this next sprint and trying to make some good progress there for you. If we look at the Copilot stats, it's said that the next thing to do is to host Tiger dashboards on a custom domain with a backing database, which is correct. This is something that we discussed during the sprint review as a feature that we would like to see, especially since Tiger has the capacity to kind of track performance across sprints, which we're not taking advantage of right now because we're just deploying the surge and it doesn't have sort of direct reference to previous sprint reviews. Is there any questions here for you, Adam?
In terms of the priority, do you want to fix up the URLs of the surge reports, or do you want to fix up the portal first?
So currently there is no portal. So if we want to go into that, that would be a separate thing. I think
So you're saying the URLs are being prioritized over the portal?
At the moment, yes, but we would like to hear your opinion on what you would like to see first.
I'd like to hear your opinion, sir. Your esteemed opinion.
My opinion is that we should work on the URL first, since that's what everyone sees when they're using this kind of dashboard every week. Whereas with the portal, it's not something that anyone's using at the moment. And instead of introducing a new feature, I think we should iron out something that we already have existing.
Okay. And what do you say, Willow?
Yeah, I agree with Michael that because we are using the search right now and everyone can see that. So we can fix that first and then add something new later.
And what do you say, Lewis?
My opinion is probably quite similar. Like, when we were initially discussing because there was a lot of different ideas that were being thrown around in terms of what's next for Tiger. I just said, let's start small first. Let's make sure the sites are moved properly, and then we can think more about how we're going to show groups of, per team, and then maybe multi-tenancy, because there's like a bunch of things I saw in that spike that we'll need to kind of build it with everything in mind, but we can start small first. And the first step would just be to first migrate.
Like to start small and not do bigger things. What do you say, Callum?
Yep, I agree. The search solution was only ever meant to be a proof of concept. I think we want to get off that as soon as possible and move to SSW.com to host the reports and then do the portal after.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll tell you my opinion. If you have seen Thomas's vibe coding video on Tina CMS, you will see it's very easy to spin up a site. I personally think that on the Surge URL, which I don't like, you can easily put a link there to the portal, and the portal can have, some basic things there, including a list of all the URLs in the Surge report. I personally would do it that way, but if you're all, if I haven't changed anyone's opinion, then we should go with the URL, but it doesn't feel as important to me as the portal. If I only had to have one thing and I had a portal that I had forever and I had to have the wrong URL forever, I could live with that. But if I just had the URL fixed without a portal, I wouldn't want that. Has anyone's opinion changed?
I just want to understand what you said. So you want it, so you'd rather have let's say a website that has the list that links you to the different sites per group. But let's say you're
I'd rather have a portal that as a new report was done, I could see the last one done. To me, that's way more valuable, like a lot more valuable, because that's how I use it. I want to know the last sprint done, and I want to know that I want to quickly see it. I'm always looking for this data. I'm always pinging people for that. The URL is untidy, but it's not. It's just there's bad URLs all over the point. I get Anastasia send me a link to something to buy, and it's like 15 lines long. And I think, wow, that's insane. But people just deal with crazy links. So it's not the end of the world to me. Now, have I changed anyone's mind on changing the priority there?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I think the surge link is serviceable for now. Like, it's not the end of the world. Everyone's been living with it and we haven't had complaints. But yeah, it would require ideally yourself, me, Willow, and maybe Callum to sit down and then really hash out what you'd like to see on this portal, what features you'd like to see. But yeah,
Well, I told you the main one, so that would be the first
Yes.
thing. You just do a portal with that.
Yeah.
You,
of course.
you,
And then
you
we can get
use some of the fast things that you can do with Claude Code. With it'll be neat enough. And with Tina, I think you'll get it done reasonably fast. But is anyone else other than Callum?
The main issue that I've got with that is currently the only thing we are persisting is we send the HTML that we generate into Surge, and that is the record of the meeting. We are not storing anything about the meeting anywhere else. So in order to build a portal that links to all the Surge meetings, we need to add a database and store all the meeting details in the database. And so if you're going to do that anyway, you might as well just have a website that just shows the stuff in the database and then build the portal after it. That would be my thought.
I definitely, if let's just say you were you nicely reformatted a prompt and sent it through, or you've got all the data, but you did that as a one-time thing and it's lost, I definitely would want that stored. I
Yeah,
probably would
so
have
at the
done that at the
moment,
beginning.
Surge is our database, which is why it was a proof of concept and not meant to be
Right.
production ready. And I don't think it is, and that's why I want to get off it as soon as possible.
Right. Now I understand. All right. So Callum, you're strong on keeping to the Surge priority.
Yeah, and once we do that,
Okay.
it'll be a lot easier to build the portal because all the data will be
Okay.
in the database as well.
Understood. Good conversation. All right. Good.
Cool. Any other questions before I close this out?
No.
No. And thank you all. This will be on SSW.AI. Thanks for joining me this meeting. I'll see you next time.
Mm.
Thank you.